That's not what we want. Chances don't have any upbeat music. All the music I listen to is like worship. Like I listen to, I don't know if you listen to the Todd Delaney worship. I don't know, I listen to the Pandora stations a lot. Tasha, I have her on here too. This topic is Tasha. I wish you could, on this one, you know, on Facebook, you can, you know, invite people, but I think Instagram, not so much. I don't know if you were able to kind of invite some of your people, some of your followers, but I know it's early too, because a lot of people do, okay, so loud. A lot of people do like lives. They go live like at 9 o'clock at night. I guess because they're like, okay, you're not doing anything else. Laying in the bed, like jump on. But I'm with you. I kind of like early lives. Anyway, we'll see. So I'm gonna wait like 2 more minutes. It's 7:03. See if anybody can join. I know probably people are probably like cooking dinner, running around. It's all good because my goal is again to save this live, so and hopefully upload it to YouTube. This camera's got my skin looking a little nice. I mean, it's a little broken out and these eyebrows need extra help, but it's okay. Hey, if you're just joining us, we were just trying to wait to build a little audience. I got someone that's gonna be coming to speak to us. We're gonna do a little girl talk today. Men are welcome as well. So thanks for joining. Hang on in there just a minute. I just wanted to give it 1 more minute to see if anybody else is joining. Please invite your followers to come. Share. I don't know if we can share from here, but invite people to join us, please. Hello, Dr. T. Smith. Thanks for joining. I was trying to find a little bit more upbeat music. Y'all, what's some good music? Like it's inspirational music. I like preferably music that doesn't necessarily have curse words, but that, you know, positive, upbeat music. Or if you listen to Pandora, or maybe some stations that you listen to on Pandora. All right, guys, we're gonna get started. I don't know what I just did. Playing now. Okay. Well, I guess this is what we need to hear. Speak to us, Lord. Okay, so welcome to the first episode, so to speak. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining. Hello, hello. I'm going to wave to some people. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you'll stay. like I was saying, welcome to the first episode. This is my dream. And I want to hear feedback from people too. If you think it would be a great show, an interesting show, it's called the Journey, right? And so the journey is about actually purity journey. And so when I say purity, Purity, you know, people are like, okay, what is that? I had a live yesterday with a friend, and we were just kind of defining what does that mean. I mean, okay, but it's just as simple as I think it sounds. Like purity, when you think about purity, you think about wholeness, chasteness, specifically as it relates to sexual purity. And the 100% Virgin movement that's at the forefront of what we celebrate. We promote God's standard for purity. And so, but the awesome thing about that is it does not exclude anyone, because at the foundation of that thought process, purity is basically our God identity, right? Like pure identity. Like when people think about, God says, be ye holy as I am holy, righteous. Like how do we do that? How do we have that pure identity? There's only one way, through Jesus Christ, and by his grace through faith. And so that is basically the sanctification process. And that is really at the core of what this is. When you think about your journey, everybody has a story, everybody has a testimony. And to me, it's amazing. It may not feel amazing, right? But I love hearing people's stories. And, you know, the Bible talks about being an overcomer by, one, the blood of the Lamb, but the word of our testimony. What better way to encourage someone else and to receive your own upliftment and encouragement in the process, or after the whatever hump that you may be trying to get over, but then to share. Transparency is such a gift, and so many of us don't utilize that gift in the body of Christ, because, you know, the enemy's plan and design is to, you know, get us to feel shame, condemnation, fear, rejection, you know, just all these crazy things. I don't know about you, but sometimes I deal with, even just going live, like even just doing the things that I do to try to promote God's platform, you know, that he's given me. Sometimes I deal with some of that. So anyway, thinking about, again, everybody has a story, everybody has a journey that they're taking in life. And your story started somewhere, right? Like for so many people, women and men, you might have been violated sexually, like as a child or somewhere in your life, rape, molestation. And those things are real. Or you may have had low self-esteem because there's a root to something that travels back to, I felt abandonment, I felt rejection, whatever the case may be. You did not feel that self-worth. So, you've been journeying or journeying that out, you know, and that could have been acting out. That could have been promiscuousness. That could have just been with one partner. But at the end of the day, God's standard for purity is always, maintaining a chasteness, and with I guess withstanding or abstaining, from sexual activity, intercourse, anything of that nature, until marriage. He has a prerequisite, there we go, of marriage for a reason. Really, it's protective, but it's also covenant. And covenant is so big throughout history, throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament of the Bible. God is really serious about the covenants that, one, he makes with us, but that we're making commitments and covenants to him, especially with our body. So that, in a nutshell, and I feel like that was really wordy, is really the premise behind a purity journey. And so I'm going to invite my special guest. I'm so excited. We can talk about how we met. I'm so excited to invite Miss Lady B. I'm going to request her, and I'm bringing her in, and she can introduce herself. We can kind of talk about maybe how we met, and she could tell us, you know, about her journey. This is really what I want to do, to kind of, again, break away some of the dispel some of the myths, break away some of the, I don't know, tabooness as it relates to talking about sex, sexual purity, or lack of sex, or whatever the case may be. It is something that is mentioned in the Bible over and over and over for a reason. So we got to dialogue about it. We have to heal in these areas, and that is so important to God. And it's important to me because it is important to Him. All right. So without further delay, let me see if I can invite Miss Lady Brandi B. So it says waiting for you. So hopefully you see that request and you're acknowledging and accepting the request to join the video.
Yay! How are you
doing? How are you?
Awesome.
Yay. Thanks for joining.
All right. So hello, welcome everybody. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story to purity and to marriage on your platform. I really think this is amazing. I think so many young women need to hear this. They need honest and open conversations about how hard it is, preparation for what it is that you're asking God for. So just thank you. Right. What would you like me to start off with?
So thank you for all of that. Thank you for joining us. So just start by telling our audience who you are, and then we can kind of talk about how we met.
Okay. I'm Brandi Adams. I live here in Decatur, Georgia. Me and my husband have a church in Decatur, Georgia, where it's greater. I am currently working with the school board of Gwinnett County, where I serve, and I had the pleasure of meeting Miss Spearman.
Miss Wilson, that's okay.
My bad.
Miss Spearman's another teacher of ours.
I'm mixing things up, but yeah, it was very interesting because it doesn't matter where you go, God will attract you to certain individuals that have a like mind and are kind of going down the same path. So it was just a pleasure to meet you. That's all.
I know, right? Yeah. Like we had this whole conversation. Like you weren't even subbing for me. Like at the time, you just
a whole nother teacher, yeah.
And we had like a 45-minute conversation as you were on your way out.
Right.
But and it was just such a God moment, I felt like, because we just began to talk about where we were from. So we have connections because I'm originally
Kentucky.
I live in Atlanta, originally from Kentucky. But the thing is not just Kentucky, because how many people say they're from Lexington, Kentucky? Most people say Louisville.
Right.
But I was like, wow, like I'm from Georgetown, but I mean, Lexington
very
is like
close.
10, 15 minutes away from there. So I know some of the connections you were saying, some of the places, some of, the church and the family I'm like, wow, right. Such a small world.
It really is. But it was such a pleasure. I'm glad because anything that God will ask you to do, he'll link you up with the right people that'll help manifest it.
Yes. So let's see. Talk to us about, because it's always, for me, I noticed formatively everything begins to shape when we were young. Mm-hmm. So maybe some of the things that you saw or some messages that you got from your parents or didn't get from your parents or whatever your experience was, feel free to share that helped you, I guess, come into understanding of purity and walking out this journey.
Right. Okay. Well, I am from Fort Lauderdale. I came from a very strong woman of God, very, very strong. They actually have their own ministry there as well in Fort Lauderdale. So I grew up in a single parent household. My father lived in South Carolina. So I was constantly, actually for about 10 years, it was 10 years between my mother's end of her first marriage to the time where she got married again. I watched my mom go through this journey. And then I had a... Did you catch that?
I'm sorry, I had a call. Apologize.
You're fine. You're fine. No, that had a huge impact on what she taught me as a daughter of the king and how I dated or how I courted somebody. That's what she would probably refer to. Mm-hmm. And there's tidbits I think that everybody can learn from the good and some of the bad situations that we're privy to. Because I know, just speaking from a child from a blended family, it's very interesting watching your parents date. You know what I mean? It's interesting watching what spouse that they pick, because some of these things that we've encountered in our families weren't necessarily how things were supposed to be designed. And it's so important that you come to grips and come with peace with whatever God has allowed your story to have, because he's building this person that he needs. So whatever spouse that you're waiting on, God has put so many different life events that you've had to go through to prepare you to be that wife, to be that husband. So although I didn't grow up in a home with a mother and a father, I definitely know for sure that everything that he did was to prepare me for who I am now. I got a stepdad. Obviously, my mom got married, and now I have 3 stepsons of my own. And I would never be able to love them and nurture them the way that I do if I wasn't a stepchild. You know?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So pause right there for a second, because I felt like you just said like something really powerful that I would love to unpack. Like, because I didn't have that experience, and I don't know if anybody, I'm sure other people did, but I would love to hear more, like you were saying, the whole notion of, I guess you said as like, probably like a teen or a preteen, getting to see your mom, a woman of God,
Yes.
model character, even in dating, even though she had, been married and that did not work, you still got to see her, to the best of her abilities, walk out purity in the process of dating and even selecting a mate or being selected.
Right. So what I would say to that is, God bless me, because it was interesting. People have almost a Disney picture. They have this movie of what getting married and somebody finding you're supposed to be like. There was a 10-period wait. And I watched her not engage in sexual behaviors, not necessarily date often. She didn't bring men into our home. I mean, it really started to not only reveal her character as a woman, but reveal how strong we can be in Christ. Because there's always going to be temptation. We were in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale to be exact. They come in all colors and all sizes. So it's just the point of, and I really was able to see out of the person that she chose, God will tell you who your spouse is. And I think that's part of the purity walk too, and preparing yourself to be a wife, to have faith, to trust God, because you're practicing tools that you're going to need when you actually get into your marriage. So if you trust God and you're patient enough to say, okay, I'm going to stop picking, because the people that I'm picking out are obviously not my husband. But if you wait and, you know what I mean, you're really earnest about searching for God and hearing what he's telling you as a woman, you'll pick the right husband. And I watched her take that journey. I watched her, cry many nights, or, want to have that company, have that protection, because they're supposed to be our covering. And it is very hard. But she showed me my own faults in when I wasn't listening to God and I was trying to date on my own and pick out people for myself. And she also showed me how you do have the strength to wait. You do have the strength to listen. And when God tells you who they are, you'll know it. It won't be a doubt. Yeah.
Wow. That's phenomenal. So now tell us, let's get the tea on how this works. Because I know you went to, what is it, Florida State?
I was at Alabama State.
Right? Alabama State. Okay. So tell us the tea. Because, we grown when we go to college. And then we get there, I don't know if you, like, I went to a black college, HBCU, shout out to
my
those. So, when you get there, let me just share my experience. I was like, okay, like, I'm just like, I'm green and new, and because I was very shy. But it's like on any given day, like, it's just such a, like, your head can get so big because everybody's like, hey, shawty, hey, let me holler at you for a moment. Like, you just like, oh, I'm cute.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But you got to be mindful of that. Like, where is that going to lead, and what do you really want? And at that age, you're still discovering all of that, and it could be very
enticing,
dangerous, and detrimental.
Yes. So as you stated, I had the luxury of going to a HBCU. Mine happened to be the best in the world. No, but
I don't know about that,
but I really, really enjoyed my college years. And I wouldn't take anything away from my story. I went from a very sheltered household that was very religious, never had been to a party. So being dropped in the middle of a all the time barbecue party was quite enlightening for me. And it came with good and bad things. I definitely think there was some choices that I brought on my own self where it's like, you knew better than that. And there's also some things that I think God allowed me to go through in order to help me prepare and understand this guy is not for you. Going out with a guy that does not go to church or does not speak about the Lord, does not study his Bible. You know what I mean? You start to understand we might look the same, we might talk similarly, but me and you are not heading in the same direction. And the only way that you grow a disgust and a distaste for something is when somebody keeps serving you something that you don't like to eat. That's the only way that was my experience. And so when I hear people talk about their journey, you know, especially, hopefully I can set a trend where you don't allow bits and pieces to be cut away, because there was a portion of time where I was doing my own will and I was talking to people out of the flesh. And eventually you get tired of having the same results, whether it's somebody lying to you or somebody cheating on you. And it's like, as soon as you stop, you know what I mean? And you get tired of it and say, God, I'm tired of picking out what I think I need. What is it that you're trying to show me? What, not only looking for your better half, as people say, but who am I supposed to be helping? Because we're supposed to be a helpmate. You know, and sometimes we run ourselves down so bad with looking a certain way, dressing a certain way, being at all the hypest parties, that you're not working on yourself. And so how can I be of help to you when I'm less than who I'm supposed to be my own self? So we got to
I don't know how to help myself, right?
So there was that in me making so many mistakes in college. And, you know, I still graduated with my honors. But a lot of my time was spent making mistakes. And it honestly, it wasn't until probably towards the end of my junior year that I really started. I went to church throughout the whole process, but it wasn't until then when I really started to listen and understand I'm not, as far as relationships, I'm not getting where I want to go. This isn't giving me what I want. And
I think for
last one, and she's on here right now. Your friends will help you so much if you surround yourself with individuals who are seeking God. It don't mean that they're perfect, but they also are like-minded. That will change your whole perspective of where you're going. So sometimes most of it is just stuff that you can literally stop doing. You have a choice at what you're doing.
Yeah. I know for me, like I was telling you, I think I saw, looking back now, it's just you're walking into who God called you to be. You have to walk into the identity, and you have to it's a process sometimes of walking and healing, because sometimes we are broken and don't know it. Sometimes we know it, but sometimes we don't, because it's the norm, like where our neighborhood we come from, or, you know, the family that we come from. Everybody acts like this, everybody does this, and you don't know any better because that's your normal.
Right.
And so, but I realized, I think it took me a long time, because I'm now in my 40s, but it took me a while to realize, oh, you've dealt with rejection a long time. And it showed in your actions. It showed in me, you know, emotionally being high because someone said hi to me and thought I was pretty. Or then I went to graduate school, which is interesting. This is a true story. HBCU, that's, if you want to feel good about yourself, go to
there.
HBCU.
They gonna feel like a queen.
And then go to, like, I went to grad school at a predominantly white school where it was a drought. It was like, and I really struggled emotionally. I had to deal with that because I found myself using that as a crutch to feel validated, to feel pretty. And that's a dangerous place to be.
It is.
Because you can potentially compromise. And I felt like, you know, looking back, I did a lot of compromising. Like I'm not, and I'm still a virgin. I'm waiting to have sex to be married. I'm believing God for my husband, but
he coming.
Praise God, I received that. but yeah, it was just looking back. I think I did compromise a lot because of those insecurities, because of those me needing some kind of validation. I'm like you said, I was entertaining guys I ain't had no business in. And then you get good at it because it's like you're not going to give them nothing, but you still got to play the game.
Right, and it puts you
what's the point of playing the game?
It puts you in an interesting position. Yeah, but I think you really said something about sometimes we're broken and we don't know that we're broken, and sometimes we know that we're broken and we try healing something that we are not accredited to do. You know what I'm saying? I know one of my issues was growing up without a father. I wanted, really, it's not even so much something that's sexual. It's just wanting to be loved, wanting to be cared about. There's some things that fathers, obviously God gave mothers and fathers, that a father is supposed to pour into his daughter. And I went about trying to find it my own way. You know what I mean? And through relationships and guys. And you end up hitting a dead end constantly, because this is not how he even asked us for women. We're supposed to be worth more than rubies. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just be giving it away. And you eventually have to come to this understanding of what I need, God will supply. You know what I mean? If it means me waiting, if it means me not talking to somebody, but you can't go filling a void that God didn't tell you to fill.
Right. This is so true.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
This is so true. So let me ask you, when did you get to the place, like I know you probably started thinking, like you said, your junior year, like this is not working. These are not the guys that I'm really interested in. But when did you get a full head on say, I'm a helpmeet, or I want to help my husband? Like when did you kind of go full force in that direction?
Full force in getting ready for my husband, like by myself, before I even knew who he was. My senior year. Okay. I think the HBCU experience, as wonderful as it is, the parties had gotten old. Being on the yard got old. People calling you, saying, "Hey, beautiful." All of that gets old when it gets so old when you really want a true relationship. And
because it's shallow. It's like surface level.
It is. And so at that point, and I still laugh about it today, I started talking to God like he was my best friend. You know what I mean? God, I don't know where he's at, what he's doing, but Lord, let him know that I'm coming. I hope that he will go to church with me. I hope he's studying your word just as much as I am. And it was like I was so hungry and I was so desperate and I was so tired of the things that I was doing that I just began to really explain who I was looking for and what I wanted him to give me. Because he's supposed to be finding us. That's biblical. We're not supposed to be out searching for him.
Yes.
And so what I came to understand is, like, you got to completely refocus yourself. And that's when I started really asking God, where do I go after this? You know, because everybody faces where do you move after you go to college? This kind of had a lot to do with where I was putting in job applications. And I went through a season where at senior year, I was not being called a girlfriend anymore. And I think that's so important to say. Hopefully it doesn't offend anybody. But I was asking God because I was hungry. You know what I mean? Not only to do his will, but kind of like what you said before, I don't want to be put in any more hard situations, and I don't want to be tempted. And if it's your will, God, whoever's wife that I'm supposed to be, I want him to know, and I don't want it to be a long process.
So let's pause for a second, because I think, and I've been here too, a lot of people struggle with this. Am I supposed to be somebody's wife? I want to be a companion. I want to be in a relationship. But I think there's, like, you seem like you have a lot of wisdom and understanding about it, and probably because you maybe spoken to your mom, you've probably done your own study.
Right.
I know I went through mentorship personally. Like, I had to get to a place because I struggled with that. Well, am I supposed to be alone? Am I supposed to be married? I want to be married. Like, is that just me? Is that from God? Like, it was crazy. And then it was just like, God had to, like, really bring people into my life to impart the wisdom that you're talking about now. Like, well, this is a godly desire.
Yes.
You know, these are the things that, you know. So it was just like, wow, yeah, you know what? Like, start thinking wife now. Like, you don't have to.
Yes.
And people might not understand that, but it's a whole philosophy. You don't have to be anybody's girlfriend. Like, you can make up in your mind that I'm called to be a helpmeet.
Yes.
And then take that journey.
You are a whole,
so even that's another journey.
Wife, not a side, not macaroni and greens. You are a whole wife. And I kind of, you know what I mean, in a very respectful way, not not haughty or,
Hey
you know,
guys.
thinking that I'm better than anybody else. But I politely, even to my husband, literally my husband, I remember he used to joke about it. And the way that he proposed to me, he said, well, I think I want you to be my girlfriend, because he knew my reaction was going to be like, what? He was like, no, I'm just playing. I want you to be my wife. And that's when he got down on the knee. So it was that serious to me, because you are your own person. You have your own name. You've worked so hard to establish, through all of the mistakes that you've made and through all of the awesome accomplishments that you've made. You've established who you are as a woman. And for me, this is how I see it now. And I get that it took me a long time to demean myself as just a girlfriend. You're not a girl. You're a woman. You know what I mean? And there's so many like amazing qualities and responsibilities that God places on you to water it down to just a girlfriend. And that was part of me mentally saying, I'm not gonna be cooking for nobody else no more. Not for you not for you to extend yourself in a way like you're trying to be a husband. You know what I mean? And I think guys make it so clear when they're playing and when they're searching for a wife. They don't talk to you any type of way. They do not disrespect you. They're providers. So and I think,
So talk to us about that difference, because I mean, to me, in the purity journey, let me just bring it back because this is so powerful to me.
We having good girl talk.
In the purity journey,
I said we having good girl talk, so we hitting all type of topics.
Yes. So in the purity journey, like coming from a place of, like you said, like we talked about journeying through saying, okay, I think I am probably broken in some areas, or I didn't know I was broken, but I'm hitting some patterns and some cycles and some dysfunction here. I've been partying, I've been dating, the thug, the bad boy, all these things. Come on, let's just be real about it. That all of the men that the culture say, you know, he's a ride or die, you need to be a ride or die, all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not working out for me. How's that working for you? And then in our heart, we really know what we want, but we're kind of afraid and we don't know how to get there. And it's like shedding all of that insecurity, shedding all of that, and being bold and brave enough to stand, like what you said, and just make this declaration of, I'm a wife. I don't have a ring on my finger.
But you still are. That doesn't make it any less.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but like I don't have a ring on my finger. Tumbleweeds are going by. I don't see nobody. That phone is not ringing. It's so dry. But at the end of the day, I'm making a stance that I'm worthy of love.
Yep.
I'm worth not just giving my body, not just sexing and cooking, and for someone
washing
that has
clothes.
no, no intention on wifing me, no intention, and we know that.
You know it.
We try to fool ourselves, but we know that.
Because in your heart, I think you fool yourself. I mean, God created us to be nurturing creatures. You know what I mean? And so and that was one of the things. Hopefully, I'm not getting off topic. You have to start living in the real world. You can't stay, seriously, you can't say, oh, well, I think I'll bring him to Christ and I think he'll change. That's not how guys are. That's not how guys are. You must look at exactly what he's doing now, because I joked with, so many jokes that I joked with my husband before we got married about, I'm really strong-willed and I study. So I got to be very smart about whose head I choose, because after you say I do, you have to be able to listen and abide by whatever it is that they're seeing for their household, because he's responsible to God. So it's just, there's so many little lessons as a young woman in Christ or waiting for your husband that I think people need to talk about more, because we just even inside the church, if they're following Christ, you can't just talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Really pay attention.
Right.
Really pay attention to, does he have his head on his shoulders? Is he seeking God? Does he have goals? But those, I don't know where those get lost in conversations, but they do.
My thing my thing now is like, who is he accountable to? Because yes, you can look good, you can talk the talk, you can walk the walk, but who are you accountable to? Because that tells me that you're humble and you're teachable. Like you're willing to submit to someone too. I mean, first of all, first and foremost, of course, to God, but there has to be some mentorship, some discipleship, something. You know what I mean? You just can't be out here, because that's scary too. So now you ended up marrying I don't want to say a narcissist, but yeah, like someone that just thinks that they running things. Like it's just you all the end all be all, and that's not a good look either.
No, but that's where I guess as women have to start the conversation of valuing yourself and loving yourself. Because if you love yourself, you're gonna put them through as many tests as they put us through. You know what I mean? Besides looking good and being able to cook a meal for us, it's sir, are you reliable? Do you hold even if it's vacuuming the floor at the church, do you do anything? You know, are you seriously,
I know that's right.
Does he respect his mother? Because he's only going to respect you as much as he respects his mom. Some of these things do have biblical ties, but it's just stop. I think sometimes we find ourselves so frustrated because it's like, I want to be in a relationship. I want this to happen. I want to be a wife. That you don't really think with all of your mind, like, is this person meeting my standard? And that really is a reflection of how much you love yourself.
And then do they, and when we're talking, because we're talking about purity, like, and purity extends beyond just sexual purity, but sexual purity is a big thing. Right. If a man is able to practice on his own self-control, like he's able to demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit, then that's a big thing. It is. I mean, not to say, I mean, you I know you might want to talk more on that, but then the courting stage and how that all plays out, because we are in this flesh, and you know, but we have to put parameters around things and be safe.
What I would say in 2020 is I think women of God have to practice godly game. Okay, because they're still males and they will continue to look for basic needs. That's how God wired them. They're wired to replenish the earth, be fruitful and multiply. Sometimes we don't choose the best people, you know what I mean? Or we don't have, you have to look for people who are ready to be committed. That's what I would say. Because a lot of guys will say, I'm ready for a wife. And as much as we study what being a wife is, I think they need to have an understanding of what they're asking for. Because
absolutely,
you are providing, he's your covering, but there's so many ways that you will eventually end up praying for him and setting the tone in your house. Whether it's bringing in your rest day where you guys worship God and come before him, you're responsible for so many different things. You're responsible for praying for your children and really educating them about what's going on. And so where he falls in the midst of all of that with, is he responsible? Is he somebody that's going to endure what he's asking for? Because a wife is not a weekend thing. And a lot of guys get tempted with dates. That's a big word. And that's why I think I appreciated my mom talking about courting. Courting puts him in a restraint. You have a certain amount of time, and you are not about to waste my time because I am valuable.
Okay.
I'm rubies and golds and pearls, so I don't have time to just throw out here for you. And they need structure. If you really look at all the things that guys enjoy, you can't fix a car without specific instructions. You know what I mean? You can't, I don't know, build a house without specific instructions. And as women, you got this. Speaking of yourself as something so amazing, you're gorgeous, you're infatuated, you're interesting. You can't put this amazing individual in front of him and not give him boundaries to respect.
Come on now. Now talk to us about that, because I think like where you were going into, and you have so much wisdom and knowledge, and I appreciate you sharing that as a wife. But what does it look like when you have entered into a courtship? You know, there's this period before you get married. What does that look like, that purity journey? What did it look like for you?
Mine was very interesting.
Okay.
In a glimpse, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I was teaching at the time, and I came and met my husband at church at a weekend. Never seen him before, never talked to him ever. And within 1 week, he asked me to come back to visit him in Georgia. And then within 2 months, he had already proposed. So mine's a bit interesting. But what I would say, even with that, is giving yourself limits and like pacing yourself. Because we're so much more emotional than they are. and you're asking them to rise above most of the time, especially if they've never been married before, or even if they have been married before, you want to set your own standards. You want to set your own tone. You're asking them to rise above what is used to them. They're used to girls hopping in their inbox. They're used to girls saying, oh, I'll go out with you tonight, or I'll stay with you tonight. And you have to keep in mind, I have to bring something different to the table. So for me, different looked like me completely, it sounds so bad, being selfish. Whether it was working on my work or going to the gym, working out on things, or focusing on, if it's a craft, I used to love to dance. I spent a lot of time. You occupy your time and be so focused on building yourself and following after Christ that they can't just take up all of your time.
But let me ask you this, because I know you said, and it's true, we build that quick connection and we're ready to run with it.
Ready?
Like we let's just be honest, we married that man. Like, oh, you know, you looking my way halfway, you a man of God. Like, we already at the altar in our head. Like, we run with it. So how did you, like, was that hard, I guess?
Was it hard for me to do what?
To do what you're saying? Because I mean, I agree. Like, you, like, don't stop your normal routine in the sense of, you know, working out, ministering. Like, was it hard?
Okay, anything you practice, I'm so bad at this. Isn't it a 90-day rule? Is it 60 or 90?
30, at least 21 to 30 days. I think.
All the numbers. As long as you practice, as long as you start practicing it and it becomes a habit, it'll become your new normal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it is hard. It's a struggle at first, but that's why you lean on Jesus.
So it was hard.
It was. Well, because you naturally want to.
It's exciting.
Yes. Yeah. You want the good morning, and nothing's wrong with a good morning text, but you want the long conversations where you stay up all night, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it forces this person who is trying to court you or who's trying to talk to you, when they do get your attention, when they do get your time, they don't waste it. You know what I mean? And it might profit you good. He might be your husband, or it might get you one step closer. Each person that says, you know, he's not the right one, or they say I'm not the right one, you're one step closer to finding who it is God has for you, and you didn't waste your time preparing. Because as a woman, and what I'm understanding for your entirety as a woman, you're gonna spend the rest of your life preparing something. That's what we do as nurturers and women in our communities and in our families. So don't waste time and get busy about yourself and feel the burn. You know, when you work out and they say, no, now you just got to the workout when it just started hurting. That's the good part. You got to sit in the good part.
But that's to me, what you're saying is it's building character and it's good work ethic. Like be busy, like when they talk about Ruth in the Bible, like be about business. Like, you know, Esther, like we got some business to tend to. Yes, you know, we cute. Yes, he cute. But at the end of the day, it's bigger than just being cute together. Like, we got things to tend to.
It is. It is. And he's never going to put more on you than you could bear. God is so faithful. And even if you feel like you've fallen, what I'm starting to understand is God is he's putting situations and things in your life that you're going to need later on. So just because you might have talked to this person again or slept with this person again, because it happens, you know what I mean? Yeah, and people get so shy about coming to church and or whoever that they speak to and saying, I'm really torn with this. I'm really in love with this person, and it's hard for me to detach myself from them. And it's not all the time something that comes from having sex. You know what I mean? You can speak to somebody on a day-to-day basis and really fall in love with this person and be connected. But it's something that we have to learn at every phase of our life, because he's going to require you to refocus. And you know what I mean? Whether it's building your family for a season, building your ministry for a season, finding a partner, seeking God for a baby, for a child. There's going to be so many times where he's going to ask you to pull back. I need your attention. I need you to pray. I need you to read more.
That's right.
And you got to be willing. That's the big word. You got to be willing to block out everything. Tunnel vision.
That is so powerful. That is really powerful. So, like, can you spill the tea with us? Like, were you all able to maintain to the end?
Yes, we were able to maintain. Okay. We went ahead and got married. That's what I will say. I did pray, and God answered my prayers.
Okay.
All right. And there's some contingencies that I think everybody needs to understand. When you ask God, we serve a very mighty God. He will give you what you ask for. That's what my mom used to say. Be careful about what you pray for. You ask for patience, put you through some situations where you learn the hard way how to have patience. So with my husband asking for my hand in marriage so quickly, it did catch my parents off guard. You know what I mean? And he was a man of God, church going. Everything that I asked for from the Lord, he provided. And I think when you say, were we able to hold out until the end, I think people need to understand, what is it that you're asking God for? You know what I mean? If you're looking to say, I want to be pure and I want our relationship to be very strong, I want to know that I'm the person that he values and wants to be with, that might not look like a long courtship. Right. Or if you are somebody that's asking God for intimacy and relationship, like really getting to know somebody, that might be a longer period of dating or courting. But be very specific about what it is you want the Lord to give you, and be open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either way, because so many people told me, oh my gosh, how did you know that was the person you were supposed to be with? And it's like, where God might tell you to be engaged for 3 years, he might tell me, do it now. You know what I mean? And you have to listen and really pray. That's why your prayer life is so important, to know what God is telling you to do.
Right. I think it goes back to what you said a little bit earlier. You were saying knowing, how am I going to be of help to? So first of all, who am I? Mm-hmm. How can I help myself? Mm-hmm. And what do I bring to the table? And then how can I be of assistance? Because we are assisting the man of God in some areas. Right. So when you start thinking about that, that man of God, like he didn't have time to wait. It sounded like I need help today. Yes. Listen, yes. So, yeah.
And you gotta be ready. You gotta be able to run on your feet, because there's gonna be so many situations, and that's why I don't think that they're different problems. They take on different titles, and it might be about different things. But being able to trust God, because he's gonna put you in front of so many people that you never expect. While you're dating, you don't know who is watching you. You don't know who's saying, okay, well, her standards are here, so maybe I should model that. There's so many people that we touch that we never know. And it's going to continue. So take your waiting process with pride and with honor, because God is doing the work even through this.
Yeah. I like the way you said, just being able to, I really love, and I want to drive home that whole relationship piece. To me, I'm learning the value of just intimacy and getting to know God. And I'm like, why did it take till this long to get that? But I finally think I'm starting to get that and understanding. Like you just said so many valuable nuggets, and I appreciate that. Just praying to God about what you want. But even in that, surrendering that to him, like you said, being open to, what would you want? Like, if it's not what I'm desiring, help me to desire what you desire. Right. You know what I mean? And just being open to that. Like, I don't know if that makes sense what I'm trying to say. Like,
it does. And I think it's a hard pill to swallow. That never gets easy, because you're always going to be human. You're always going to live in the flesh.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everything that you're going through kind of prepare.
Oh no, my room. It's a mess. Excuse me, y'all.
Yeah, flip around. You back?
Yes, girl. I'm so sorry. It looks a mess.
You're fine. No, but you're right. It is hard. It's not anything wrong with you to say, this is interesting. I never expected for this journey to look like this, or even to be frustrated with it. But it's like you were talking about earlier, it's never to say that you're not a wife. It's not to say that you're not equipped for, God designed you as a woman to be able to do certain things. You know what I mean? You are somebody's rib. God might be preparing them, because you sure do not want to get your spouse before God knows that they're ready for you. Because there's lessons that they have to learn as well. And you want to be ready for whenever that time comes. So it's just, it's so huge to talk to God just in your spare time, throughout your whole day, what you're doing. He'll tell you what it is that you should do, whether it's speaking to this person, because we can talk about self-control is not exactly the word I'm looking for. We could talk about self-control with when should I talk to him and how much. But if you listen to God, he'll tell you that's not the one. You don't need to talk. Or check up on this person or pray for this person and they'll reach out. So it's so different for each person.
Mm. And I know for me, so I'll just be transparent with me. And talking about purity, we're talking about sexual purity, but again, it extends beyond that. It's like, I think about purity as like a just surrender of your heart, right? I always thought about having godly desires, but even in that, you have to submit godly desires to him, because sometimes godly desires can get the best of you. I can testify to that. Like the desire can get you, and like no longer are you containing the desire, but it's almost controlling and consuming you. So where was I going with that? Basically just saying that you understand what I'm saying. I don't know if you can interject, as that thought might come back, but
I do. I mean, the one thing that came to mind, it is an old song, Lord, I'm available to you. You know what I mean? And it starts, to me, those moments where you are vulnerable, because that's what it is. And you're supposed to stay vulnerable for your husband. There's places that we build up muscles as women that we're not supposed to have them. You are supposed to be a soft, loving, kind, open woman to your husband. But find yourself deep in worship. You know what I mean? Until that time comes, allow the Lord to be. That's why I say I called him my best friend. Allow the Lord to be your husband. Reveal everything that you're feeling to him, you know? And through that, you'll be able to have a more open and honest conversation with him about, Lord, this is too heavy for me. You know what I mean? Or help me, guide me. What direction do I need to be going in?
I know what I was going to say, because you were saying, God can lead you to pray for a person, which is true. All of that's true. He can lead you to, check on a person. I think what I was trying to say is that perhaps in my journey of being, needing to be healed in certain areas and walking that out, and sometimes that could be cloudy. You know what I mean? So that's where I would advise people, because I've done it, submit that to wise counsel.
Yes.
You have a wise friend, or, mother of the church, or just somebody, because, I can speak and testify to sometimes it kind of gets off, and we can desire something, or, whatever the case may be, see things that maybe are not the case. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it can just get off sometimes. And if you know that is your weakness, like, it's okay to be like, you know what, I don't trust myself in this.
Right. So. Yeah, and that's common sense. You definitely need to listen to that. But I think as a church, now this is just speaking about each person doing their own work. We have created this idea that just because you follow Christ, you don't have emotions that are not out of the will. You know what I mean? We need to make ourselves much more transparent. Be willing to pray for somebody else, speak to somebody else. And that's not being haughty and keeping yourself from being human from others, is not being glorified and not making yourself more holy. And it's sad, because I've felt that way too, where I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't have anybody to be transparent with. But find one good person, because you need an accountability partner. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Somebody that won't judge you, and somebody who will be honest with you about what you have going on. Not somebody who will co-sign for your sin, but somebody who you're both on a journey together. That's important to pick out that person who that'll be.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have certainly enjoyed you. We've had you on here about almost an hour, but I think it's been an amazing and important and powerful conversation that was had. I pray that people that were on truly enjoyed it and were inspired in some way by it. So comment, guys, if this is something that you think we should, continue to do in the future. I love, again, people sharing their story, because I don't know, it's just so empowering to me. The strength that people have, wherever you've been in your journey, whatever your experience, like you said, God uses all things for our good.
He does.
So
He does.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
We're signing off. Before we go, we got about, I guess it's been an hour. 5 minutes, I guess. for questions, if anybody has any questions for Lady Brandi, feel free to jot them down as we're doing that. And then I talked to you about this earlier. Can you think of something you might want to bless the people with? Because she's an amazing vocalist as well.
Okay, I'll do what I said. Lord, I'm available to you. My will I will give you. I'll do what you say, do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way and enable me to stand. My life I will give to you. I'll do what you say, do. Use me, Lord.
Yes. Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
You're so
you.
welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you on. And I hope that we can talk in the future, offline, online, whatever the Lord has in store. If there are no questions, all hearts and minds are clear. We are going to sign off.
Cool beans. Talk to you
All
later.
right.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later.